up, we have Miss Marvel herself, Iman Vellani. From Barbershop, Arts Outsourced, and currently on the reboot of Frasier, Parvesh Cheena. And from Vampire Diaries, SVU, and SEAL Team, Mouzam Makkar. And from Life of Pi, How I Met Your Father, and Gulmohar, Suraj Sharma. And from How to Get Away with Murder, and currently on Showtime's The Shy, Behzad Dabu. All right, I'm going to start with a couple of icebreakers.
Iqbal G does it. Iqbal Tiba. I think about Iqbal G because I look at him and I'm like, I remember you on Roseanne. I remember you on Friends. I watched you live. And so when I think of him, and he's played everyone's dad or grandpa at this point, right? And he's also a big union activist, so that's why I see him in the boardroom too. And I look at him and I'm like, God, you look at us and be like, I can't play, you're playing the 40-something roles, the 20-something roles that I didn't. And all you feel is love. All you feel is support from him. You know, like, I think of that. That's the one I do think of, like, he must, like Kumar Kumar probably looked at everyone, you know, when he was doing The Terminal with Tom Hanks. Like, I'm sorry that happened, like, 'cause that sucks. Because I'm gonna give that person the better opinion of, like, they just wish they could have been 20-something to do it. But, like, it's just, I can't play a 20-something gay kid. Like, that. My life I spent playing 30-something in older folks when I was 21, 22. And so it is just, I sympathize with both. It's so sad. And it's just like, kind of like that immigrant, the first one who comes here, who looks at their children and will be like, you will have a better opportunity. But the real, I'm the child of people who moved here. I look at the next generation as they'll really be American or Canadian, and what had to do with some of this kind of like, oh, you're going to have opportunities that I wouldn't have had. And I just want to give that to Iqbal G because he does do that.
Truly.
And he will play in everyone's work. Sakina G does it too.
Sakina does it too.
Sakina Joffrey. So like, it's that element of like, find those. And the reason why they keep working and keep showing up in projects is because we love them. Because there was some love there. I want Sakina to be my mom. You know, like how everyone wanted Mother Joffrey. Her mother to be everyone's mother. So.
Truth.
Can I say something to that? I think you hit it on the head, actually. You know, there's this is the thing about cinema culture, right? This culture we live in, wherein one understands or believes that the face of something is the thing. The face of the something, the actor isn't doing much, really. You know, it's like saying, oh, I really want to be this kind of person, but nobody's giving me that chance to be that person on screen. And when they do, it feels empty. Why? Because the real change or difference is not in front of the camera at all. You can't have truth being told or hoping for it if that truth's not coming from the writers, from the directors, from the producers, and that's where we have to gun. Because that's where the change happens. There's only so many roles because there's only so many people who kind of get it and working in this thing or trying to make it. Otherwise, it's like you're a token. You're just like, all right, cool, we need one of you, so let's put you in. That's why it's so important that we make films, that we write, that we direct, and we tell all our different stories. This is another problem, which is also a blessing. My circumstance, your circumstance, entirely different. Where you grew up, what diaspora, this, that, whatever, right? It's entirely different. There's so many truths that we struggle to find which one's ours. You know what I mean? That's why I feel like all of us should just try and direct, write as much as we can, produce things that on the back end we find space for people to be true, for us to be true, get to do the things. Then you don't need freaking quirky brown girl, dude, like, because we're 1.9 freaking billion people. You know what I mean?
And we chatted about this before we walked in today. It's like, you know, many of us are multi-hyphenates now. because of out of necessity, right? And I guess my follow-up question to that would be: do you want to keep hustling as a multi-hyphenate? Do you wish that you didn't have to?
I think you have to. I genuinely believe you have to. Because otherwise we'll keep doing this thing.
Totally, and I asked the question because I am one, right?
Yeah, you are.
Yes, I am one, and a lot of us are, and I think it's fascinating to think about, because mostly, especially in places like ISAF, I walk in and I'm known as a producer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
It's like, but I'm also, and you know me as an actor. Exactly, it's so interesting. So I think the more that all of us do more, it does get a lot easier, and that also breaks out of the box.
Well, Mouzam, we just saw Mouzam's short that she wrote and started. So.
No, it's tricky. I mean, I love being an actor, and I feel like that is where, I love collaborating with directors and other actors. I love that. But I mean, I did write. We made Maggie's Not Okay during the strike because I was going insane. But it's interesting now that I've made it. I understand the power of being in control of what you say. And I loved that. So even it came out of necessity, but I know that to truly tell our stories, we do have to create it. No matter what, no one can get as specific as our experiences. I came to the country when I was 12. I'm an immigrant. I have a lot of those immigrant things, but I came young enough where I feel like I truly straddle that. And I grew up in the Middle East, so I'm like a third culture kid. So all those specificities you can't find when somebody else writes your story. So it's something that I did do because I felt like I had to, but now I realize that is where a lot of our power can be. It is from the specificity of our experiences.
And it does, I think, go back to this whole thing of we're more likely to work together now.
Yes.
Rather than
because I was able, because I wrote my short with Behzad in mind, because I've worked with him before and I wanted to work with him again. Who else is going to do that? And exactly, just putting. I remember I did a pilot years ago, and there were, and at one point, half the cast were people of color. There was a black guy and a black girl, and then the other half was white. And there was a moment where the 3 actors of color were sitting there, and the first person cast was the black guy, and the last person cast was the black girl. And it was the first time that I had the conversation. And they were like, once I saw your casting announcement, I thought I didn't have a chance. And that's only discussed among people of color. We're the only ones who have to think about. When I see it's oh, there's an Indian person, that's it. They hit their quota. It doesn't, so it's if we tell our stories, then there's gonna be a family that's brown, friends that are brown, kids that are brown. It just expands the casting opportunities when we tell our stories.
Can I say something real quick? Funny thing, remember I told that story about how I was a choice for a pilot and then they cast a brown woman and then I couldn't be in it because they didn't want to? I found out when the Deadline article came out, this is funny, Mouzam knows this, she's not Indian, she's black, she looks Indian. Casting still thinks she's Indian.
Oh, we all know what this is about.
She's great, it's not about her, she's great.
Right.
Funny thing, I rejected writing for a long time. Everyone was like, you have to write, you have to create. I was like, why are you telling me that? I was like, change your system, I'm an actor. If you're telling me I have to write to get work, that's bullshit. Change your system. That's how I felt about it for a long time. When I was 30 years old, my parents sat me down and they finally told me the true story that they had been lying to me for 30 years about. They told me the true story of how they came to this country. And they were like, we lied to you for the first 30 years, here's why. We didn't want you to hate your grandparents. This is really why we came here. And they gave me a story so worthy of cinema that I just started writing. And so now, it's similar to you, Mouzam. On the other side, I feel much more how you feel. It's oh, we have to. Because now I'm I'm not an actor, I'm a storyteller. And so now I'm storytelling however I can, but something needed to, I didn't want to chase it. I rejected it until something sort of hit me in the face. Yeah.
You touched on this just now. We talk a lot about how many billions of us are on the planet, right? At $1.9 billion, as Suraj and Archie Punjabi have pointed out in the last couple of days. And if I'm pivoting a little bit now. So if there are so many of us, and we are the richest minority in North America, what are still the reasons we aren't able to get more stuff made?
Ooh. Suraj?
No, you go. No.
My thought is that it's still at least I can only speak from the American point of view, that there is a perspective of where our type and our place needs to be. And I think it's on that cusp though, because we've already named Marvel, Never Have I Ever. You know, there's shows where it's now majority of brown cast and everything. We don't, who hit it earlier? Where we get the Aladdin, right? That comp. We get one shot. And when you fail, they won't give it to you for another 10, 15 years. All American Girl, Margaret Cho's show was 93. We did not have a majority Asian cast until 2010 with Outsourced. That's too long. And it was still set in India. You know, like it wasn't even a Western American thing. Then we had another 5 years before Fresh Off the Boat. So we don't have a Latino show in America, and that's our largest population. We had Cristela, we had One Day at a Time reboot, got nothing. And so right now we're still led by white folks who control the networks. They want to see their stories. It's not bad. It's inherent. What are we celebrating here? We all want to see ourselves. Until you're a Crazy Rich Asian, until you get to that spot, and then you can have another thing to repeat it, they're not giving it to us. We keep having to scratch, claw, pull, break everything.
It's also like the decision makers are conglomerizing even more. The mergers and acquisitions are making it harder and harder. So you might have, there might have been 20 studios to pitch to.
We had 26 studios, and now we're down to 4 media companies.
Exactly. So now it's like you're still pitching now only to 4 people. Those 4 people are white, and so there's less of that. But it's also, you know, I think about what did we all grow up watching? Black shows.
Right.
Yeah.
Cosby.
So-
We talk about Cosby Show a lot. And
Yeah.
how I can't talk about that interview now. Like, I saw the Cosby Show. Thanks, Bill, for
Yeah.
ruining that. But like, that's where I saw myself with Rudy Huxtable. That was the closest to a brown person we saw. That, you know.
And so growing up as a brown dude in the 90s watching TV, the only representation I saw was Apu, voiced by Hank Azaria and painted literally.
Yeah.
So then my thing is like, wait, as a black artist, I think there's like a sort of renaissance just in the last few years, but that's 30 years, 40 years after growing up watching Fresh Prince and Moesha and, you know, City Guys and all the things
Family
I grew up
Matters.
watching, Family Matters, yeah, all these things, right? But we don't have that. So now we're getting Never Have I Ever. Now we're getting some of the stuff. So maybe, once again, going back circular, maybe in 2045, we'll see our brown renaissance. But my thing is, hopefully sooner, but my thing is like, how do we then, when that happens, not be the bitter person who is rude to whoever the new Iman is?
I hope Iman is so rude.
I also, wait, listen, my diva phase is coming. I also think it's the way that we talk about the shows that do get made after the fact. Like, when I was doing the press trip for Miss Marvel, I was getting the same 5 questions, and it was just about representation, and then suddenly the show that felt so rich and nuanced and, like, specific about this one girl's brown experience living in America and being a nerd became the brown superhero, and it was like boxed in because of the press that we were doing, even though like every single person on our show would talk about these nuances and the specificities that we were experiencing on set, but then to the public it didn't come across that way, and I'm sure it did to like the South Asian community, but for the most part it really is like, oh, the brown one, right? And so I think the problem is the conversations that we have after it, because that's what gets more things greenlit as well. And like, oh, we already have a brown show on Netflix. We already have this one. Like, but there is like, again, 2 billion Muslims and South Asians in the world. Like, there is no singular representation, and I think that's the issue. It's just the wording is kind of.
Well, and I think, you know, whenever the one comes out, let's be real, our people are the first to get in there and say, this is what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, criticize.
Do you know how many times I was told I wasn't brown enough?
Yeah.
I'm born in Pakistan. I can't be any more brown.
Because it's the expectation that you want to show, we got this one outsourced. Why are you guys the dumb ones? Why are you like the lower class people? Like, because we don't want to see wealthy, rich, successful people succeed. Even when we watch like Brothers and Sisters or any rich white people show, they're in conflict. they're like, oh my gosh, we lost another billion, right? So like, you have to show comedy. Friends changed everything. Because you put 6 hot white people in it, living in a giant, the biggest apartment I've ever seen in New York City. So like, it shifted. Like, comedies like Barney Miller, like they were like gruggly, craggly, scruggly people, like normal folk, you know? And it's just, that's a problem, because like they criticize, and like, then you're the reason why we might not get another one. Because if you're criticizing it, then white folk are gonna be like, well, that one brown person said that this brown show's bad, so we gotta listen to that one person. Not everyone. And we're like, what are you doing?
Or not all 1.9 billion people saw that show, so we shouldn't try it again.
Right.
You know?
There's a hyper-actualized thing too happening with again, I'm talking about the 4 media companies, that they will cast out of India only, or Pakistan for like newer projects. And that's when we learned this through the strike. They could just acquire everything, which is great for us overall as an international community, but then sometimes for our local, don't you Canadians want to play everything and Americans want to play everything too. But when we start losing that to everything, it gets a little like, wait, we can't act? Or wait, now I can't play. Iman, actually, I talk about this sometimes. Like, they would from Marvel, because my parents are now Indian born. But you know, that little partition thing that happens that they beautifully showed in Miss Marvel, because now it's a point of reference. We can be like, partition, remember Miss Marvel? My nanny was pregnant with my mom during that, from this place called Lahore. So we would be Pakistani. But now, I have to deal with a white casting director or producer who says like, but no, someone's gonna get mad that you're not actually Pakistani. Because we can't do the nuance to be like, but let me tell you in 40 what happened, you know? So there's this, you know, so we're getting struck with this hyper-actualized. The Iranian versus the Iraqi, right? We don't want white people to play something like that. But if we are of the place of a diaspora and it was one country, one region, and now we've divided it by not finishing the border between Pakistan and India, we are still subjugated by what the Western world thinks of how we are as an identity and as a people. So that is frustrating. And that is what we're shifting now. So like, it's that element that makes me so frustrated, because like, why can't we play other parts? Why can't we play the Pakistani? If it was all one Indus River Valley and everything before, they go back so far, so they can only appease right now. But they don't look at the whole history of it. And that's my
stopping
thesis.
a French actor from playing British.
Right.
And they're not stopping a German actor from playing.
And they're not stopping Kate Winslet or Kate Blanchett from playing everything in America.
But it's a double-edged sword too. I think
It's a double-edged sword too, because I know we don't want to criticize the things that we make, but at the same time, I originated a piece called Disgraced, and in that play,
Yeah.
a brown Muslim man does really bad things. And a lot of the brown community was like, well, why are we showing that? And I loved that we showed that, because to me it's like equality isn't just showing us as angels, right? It's like I want to see us do all sorts of be nuanced and be anti-heroes like Hamlet gets to be, and gets to do these things. And it's similar to In a Streetcar Named Desire, Stanley, the lead actor, is abusive to his wife, and nobody says it's because he's Polish.
Right.
It's because he's an asshole drunk dude. And in Disgraced, when he's abusive to his wife, it's like, well, he's Muslim. He's abusive to his wife. He's Muslim. And wrestling with that with the audience, I think is important. So it's like I agree. The thing comes out, we have to support it, but also true equality will be when we can give it a nuance. We can really like talk about things the way white people can.
We've talked a lot about, yes, and we've talked a lot about this conversation, this topic within the studio system. Now, outside of that, when we're all trying to make projects independently, we talked a little bit about pitching to investors and whatnot, and I brought up that fact of we are the richest minority in this continent, right? And so, what kind of conversations have you been having? I want to hear it. Like, what kind of conversations do you have whenever you are talking to people, because you're trying to get things made now? And I can hear from anybody about this, right? You know, you're stepping behind the camera and you're like, what is the conversation about? Because I can tell you that from my end, sometimes our people are the hardest to convince.
100%.
See, this is kind of an annoying reality, it seems to me. Okay, I'm an immigrant, right? I didn't grow up here and all that, okay? Most people in that circumstance where there's a huge financial situation involved want to be associated with white, because that legitimizes them within this society. That is our gun. That's the problem. Now, how do you make someone be like, dude, you're good the way you are. You can be part of something here that demonstrates that all the things you want to prove to these other folk, you just need to be yourself. This has been the biggest, most interesting, because I thought I'd go there and talk about money. You know what I mean? I thought I'd go there and talk about money. I'd be like, look, this idea is gonna, come now. This is great. This is gonna work out. Everything is solid. Like, it's brilliant. But that's not what matters. Now you're trying to find a way to gauge and bring their identity to the forefront. Make them feel like, okay, look, listen, dude, you don't have to be something else or somebody else. We can do this together. I think one very useful thing, it seems to me, that has been seemingly working thus far also is to create a long circumstance. You know, like, this is a relationship that we're going to build over the next 5, 6 years. There's going to be a few projects. You get to be involved in this. For a lot of, this is another thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I don't mean to be, there's this whole thing, right? In North America, you go to school, you want to be cool. They go do their shit, whatever, they get rich, make bank, big money. They still just want that.
They want to be cool.
They want to be cool. They want to feel like, I'm cool. I'm cool. People like me now. Like, I don't have to be all the things I used to be and all of this kind of stuff. And that's heart-wrenching. It makes me sad. It makes me sad. But that's where you have to, that's our fight. How do I be proud of whatever I am, whoever I am, wherever I'm from, and not need this false pseudo-legitimization that has caused this problem in the first place? And it's so funny that we're talking about that when we're talking about money, when we're talking about the so-called richest minority. If these guys put some bank into this, what things we could make would be ridiculous.
Yeah, but we're also the richest minority because we save our money.
Well,
spend it. And by not, I'm not giving you money.
But I think it's like, as us as actors, the reason why it's like so hard to, I'm so glad we're starting to get away from this narrative of like, oh my God, my mom wanted me to be an actor and I had to really convince her, all this stuff, right? But we're starting to finally get away from that. But the problem of that, and again, you can debate with me on this, is like, it's because we didn't see this as a legitimate business for ourselves. Yeah?
In my experience, they don't
Want white, they want Riz or Dev.
They what?
Riz or Dev. I've heard
they're
that
both great.
every single time, and they're great, but for me it's like, I've pitched this project, get Riz, talk to me. Get Dev, talk to me. You don't got Riz, you don't got Dev, you don't have money. And it's like, but at one point, Riz or Dev were not Riz or Dev. You have to make more Riz or Devs. And they make a bunch of Chalamets and Glenn Powells. They come out of nowhere, they get chosen, so choose someone else, motherfucker. Like, it's crazy. And what's wild is like, they'll be like, can you get Riz on this? I go, no. They go, why? I go, well, first of all, I want to play it. Second of all,
He's busy.
Second of all, he's writing his own shit. He wants to do his own shit. He doesn't want to do what I did. He wants to do what he did. He's doing his thing. You know what I mean? Oh, okay.
Well, to be fair, Canada's very own Rizwan Manji is always available. I had to do one Rizwan Manji job.
That's the reason I'm talking about. No, I just think, but I think that also goes back to, it's cultural, it's first class, best one. Which one? Which university you go to? Best university? My son, top lawyer, top firm. And it's like, yo, y'all are obsessed with number one. And so I started going in, and this is a true story. We put fake awards on our pitch packet. So it was like, I'm from upstate New York, so it was like best script 2022 Syracuse, New York competition. It's like, what the fuck? When I tell you, these motherfuckers love that. They're like, oh, best script? Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same guy in high school when we had a statewide English test and we had to compare and contrast 2 novels. I ain't read no novels. So I made up 2 novels that compare and contrast perfectly. So I was like, in this novel, and it was like, the character wears greens like earth tones. In this novel, the character wears blues like air tones. That's how it contrasts perfectly. I got a 100.
I forgot the question.
Yeah,
No, the question of like, what is the conversation that needs to be had in order for these numbers that we keep talking about, like, oh, the audience is there, but then like the money is also there, but then why is that not computing,
I
right?
don't know, we have to be on YouTube, like, there's an element of like, even like this, the media forum that we're talking about is already dying, like, then they're gonna be like, when you're doing the hologram implant from your phone into your, Elon Musk, right, the implant thing coming, so like, we also have to be malleable and keep changing, like, the thing like about these numbers are gonna be antiquated in another few years when it's just Disney running everything, so like, it's gonna keep shifting too, and I think that we at least, Asian generally have been a little bit more on the forefront and ahead of it. Like, look at the success of streaming. Really, I mean, like Bollywood, Indian projects have been soaring from Delhi Police to everything, like on Delhi Crime to like on Netflix India to It Makes It Here. One like kind of side effect of our SAG-AFTRA strike was Netflix was like, all right, we'll just bring in more foreign stuff. So, it's a win for some and a lose and a loss for others.
Can I say one more thing to that, which is what I feel like this is both against what you're saying and for what you're saying, right? I feel like over here, I really feel like by separating ourselves from the second biggest film industry in the world, we're doing ourselves a strange disservice. I feel like if there was a way to truly bridge this circumstance where the stories of, I'm telling you, man, the stories of people growing up outside of India are ridiculously interesting to Indians, to me, to Pakistanis. We look at this like, man, you guys went on these crazy adventures that we dream about. But when we separate it, I feel like we lose the largest part of our support. You know what I mean?
Well, some of us were told like there'd be language from like famous Indian women directors that we know.
Yeah.
Would be like, oh, that's not as good. You're not as good as Indian, is basically their point of view. India won over India British, over India Canadian, over Indian African, over Indian American. So there's that element too, where they're like, where they feel like something like, we don't need you.
I agree, but Parvesh, this is the same shit as racism. What is racism? It's the lack of exposure. They don't know, dude. I don't know, bro. I don't know. So for me, I'm like, okay, you guys this has been going on. We're trying here. People are trying here. It's this marked separation that causes this foolish act of, this is better or that is better or they don't have it or they're this and this and this and this. It's simply a lack of exposure. Because if a way is created for us to be able to showcase all our different presences and societies to each other, all this becomes less of a problem. This becomes less important because we have all the structures. All the structures exist. So like if we find a way to communicate to, for example, Canada to India, Canada to UK, the US to Canada, the US to India, whatever it is, if we can find a way to collaborate in some strange, and Pakistan, let's not forget, and Bangladesh, let's not forget, hey, my God, Pakistan is doing crazy things. It's amazing to see, it's amazing to see. And like, if we can find a way to bridge this, and it's a tough thing to do, it's the toughest thing to do, because all of us, for whatever reason, have been forced into this constant division mentality, mindset, right?
Well, because think about it, you're Indian born and now you've been working here.
To me, I'll tell you my personal story. In India, nobody thinks I'm Indian. Over here, nobody thinks I'm whatever I'm supposed to be, whichever. You know what I mean? So it's not real, really. It's not real.
It's not blank enough.
It's not
Not
blank
Indian
enough.
enough,
enough, yeah.
not white enough, not American enough, not Indian enough.
Yeah, but what it can be is good enough.
I hope hope for your optimism and more of the producers and the powers that be will be this generation future. I'm just talking about the existing people who have a little bit of a snooty, snobbery and view on it.
Yeah.
It's the reason why they think British actors are the best, because that accent we have been taught
Yes.
is higher up. The reason why Hank Azaria could play a poo, he talked about it with Hari. He said it was a non-threatening accent. That the majority of America, because black people would not stand for it, and Latino people might not, but white people would never, but Asians were funny. We were okay to make fun of the accent for a while. That's why it was okay to them to do it. So let it be, because that's what I'm striving against. Like, there's the separation of this is even union-wise. You know, like we know a lot of actors who will work non-union jobs. And I'm a big union activist, so that's where this socialist kind of point of view comes from, because I want workers to be paid. But we've all heard the stories. We know people who drop their name when they're in certain films with Amir Khan and others, you know, who are American, because then they can work there. But it doesn't help the rest of us, because what they're doing is they're devaluing all of us, right? Because we all know that there's going to be one of us. I'm the cheap one among my friends. They have higher quotas, higher salaries, right? So like they know, these people are too much. Okay, Parv will do it for Skip, and I will because I have a mortgage. And what power? And when people ask, this is my favorite question. How did you say? Why? Well, like, how did you come across this process? Why did you choose this role? I'm like, I auditioned for it because I needed a job. What else? I mean, like, that's simple. It is that simple. You audition. May you all have the power. You can be like, no, I won't do that. But like, there's some things I'm like, no, I'm fine with it. Oh, I'll play a Republican? Acting, you know, like, now I get to act. But so like, there's that part, you know, like, I hope for that. I'm just saying, right now, at least previously, it's been that.
For sure.
Keep it separate. Part of it, your energy is not great enough for India.
Right, the change is on the precipice, hopefully because we are actively trying to, and we put all of our hope and faith in Iman's generation.
We'll give you all the spirits of all of our ancestors.
I am going to starting to wind it down with a couple last questions, just more aspirational things, obviously. Let's start with Iman. Is there a particular genre or type of character? Well, you know, erase that. Genre or a specific filmmaker you want to work with?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I'm such a fan of everybody. I just like.
I know you really are truly a movie fan.
I
love that
know,
about
like
you.
any of the posters in my room, I just want to work with them. They might be dead though. I don't know. Now that I think about it, I don't know. I feel like I want to do like a really cool genre, like a good noir. Like I feel like brown people aren't represented in that genre specifically. I want like cigarettes and sunglasses, you know, cool music in the background, smoky rooms. Like I want to be framed in that light. So yeah, maybe I'll have to write it, but yeah, that would be really fun for me.
Genre?
Or a specific filmmaker.
Filmmaker? No, Sakina Joffrey. I just always wanted to work with Sakina because one film I did where I got to Sachin Bhatt and I played like it was a gay Mombasa, Kenyan, Muslim American coming to LA. And Sakina Joffrey played the older version of Rebecca Hazelwood. And I just remember seeing Sakina in the short is you just remember like Sakina Joffrey is top for me sometimes when I think of actors in America, Indian, who can do everything. So that's because I saw her recently, like Sakina Joffrey, Sakina.
That's beautiful. I don't know, I love horror, and like zombie stuff, and I think that would be just really fun to play, like a badass, just taking zombies down, or being, I think that'd be fun. I don't see that many South Asians in that world, just kind of, you want them to like, just kind of, like, take a bite out of life kind of thing, in like a really powerful, raw way. So I think that would be fun to do.
Awesome. Suraj?
I'd like to do all the things I can do. Help me.
Cast him.
Hire him. But something gritty and witty. You know what I mean? Something true, gritty and witty, dark comedies, something like that, something in that realm where we can kind of showcase something different or new or find our way. I'm trying to write something right now that kind of guns in that direction. It's also Western. But stuff like that. So yeah, just stuff that we haven't done, man. I just want to work. I just want to work all the time, and I want to work with good people and make good things as long as we can. You know? Yeah.
I would love to be in a Spike Lee joint.
Yes.
Yes, I could totally see you in one of
Yeah,
those.
big.
I love when characters have an outside vulnerability with like an inner strength, or an outside sort of machismo with an inner vulnerability, and Spike Lee does that, and I would love to do that. If anybody knows him, let me know.
My thing is always like, everybody tells me how together I am and how like it seems like I have it all figured out, and I'm like, I just want to be like Nurse Jackie, like popping pills in the back,
Well, can I have one more thing there?
Yeah.
I shared with my best friends, and I just want to like offer this, especially because we're at a film festival. I look at everyone in the industry as someone who I want to work with, be cast by, it's just that simple. So I just want to urge everyone, everyone, even if you don't try this. Think of how you would work with them. Oh, you'd be a great actor in this. Oh, you're wonderful producing. Can you be my line producer for this? Think about that. Just shift it from scarcity complex and competition to I view it. I start to view anybody already in my mind oh, I want to work with everyone on this stage right now. It's that simple. But now there's a connection. Now there's this. Now how can you not be all right, Mouzam's gonna be my sister, Iman will be the younger one. Or actually, I'll be the dad. Let's be honest, I'm in my Gunkle phase, Gunkle era. Yeah, I want to be Steve Martin gay version, white hair for the next 30 years. Thank you.
And then lastly, because we are at an AC Film Festival, do you want to give a shout out? Oh, sorry, you didn't get the answer. No, you did.
No, I did.
You did. I would love for all of us to give a shout out to somebody in our community who did some great work recently. Yeah, I can start. Sorry You Blue
Yes.
in Expats on Amazon Prime. I think that is the type of stuff that I hope we all get to do. I'm sure. Did you read for that? I read for that.
I didn't.
Oh, okay. And I was so thrilled that she got it.
No, I did read for it.
Yeah, I was like, we all probably did. Yeah.
Yeah, I did read for it.
And I remember reading that and thinking, sorry, who's gonna get this? And I thought, that's awesome. Anybody else?
I thought Foz Mirza's Queen of My Dreams was incredible. And I know Foz well, but I don't know the lead actor, and I thought he was incredible, Hamza Haq. If anybody knows him, please put me in touch. I want a general.
Canadian.
Is it really?
Yes.
The guy was incredible, and yeah, and I thought the movie was incredible, and I thought Foz did an amazing job, so that's my shout out. Yeah, it was great.
Well, I would like to mention Faiz Shafi and Hassan Rahim. These guys are bangers. They're doing some wild stuff, and I feel like I'm very excited to see what that kind of end and edge goes towards, because there's space, it's new, and they're gonna kill it.
I can't remember, but she played the bad guy in Miss Mo. Yes, and who's also in Foz's film, which I haven't seen yet. But I remember seeing her on screen, and then I saw Polite Society recently, and I was just blown away in everything that I've seen of her. That she was a new discovery for me when I saw it, and I was like, who is this woman? Where did she come from? And I remember going in deep on her. But it was just, it's really lovely to see older women, South Asian women.
Yes, yes.
And be able to play such interesting, fun, cool roles, and the way she presented herself on screen and everything was just something just so beautiful and powerful. And I remember things man, I would love to be working at that level when I'm that age. This, it gives me hope for the future. Yes. But she was a discovery for me when I saw that, and then I saw Polite Society, and I still need to see Foz's film. But yeah, that was a lovely discovery when I saw her.
I already did Sakina earlier, so I'm just going to kind of bookend to the younger generation with Jasmine Sharma, who is a playwright, actress out of New York from Northwestern. Behzad and I did one of her plays at Center Theater Group, reading of. I've done others in New York, and it's just one of these, I have such an affinity right now to the younger generation. So when I see, when people ask like, what part do you want to do? And I know, you can hear Behzad's in my theater training and stuff because we were talking about Streetcar, and we keep referencing these white plays. And I'm like, when people ask me like, it hasn't been written yet. The great Indian or Indian American stuff, but I feel like these kids like Jasmine Sharma is starting to write the stuff that's intergenerational. She did a whole play about the Mexidos, about the Central Californian, how Mexican locals could marry Indians, the Punjabi farmers who came.
Well, that's
Because-
where Land of Gold was
and Land of
inspired.
Gold.
Well, yeah, that's where it was inspired, yeah.
So there's this world of like, that's where I see it. So it's the younger kids, so Jasmine Sharma, look her up, because we're all gonna probably be working for her too.
I mean, hi Sarar. Sarar's in the audience. I have to shout him out. Sarar Khan, he did In Flames last year, which yeah, I adore you, and I'm so excited for your career. Truly, like I think you're so talented, and yeah, like a really fresh voice for our generation. And also Usman, who directed The Glassworker, which is also at this festival. Which, if you guys can, please go check it out. It's Pakistan's first feature-length hand-drawn animated film. It is a feat. It's beautiful, and if you're like a big fan of Ghibli movies, like I highly, highly, highly recommend. Yeah, it blew me away. So.
Yes, I will second that, and I'll say it's on Sunday. It's screening on Sunday at 12:30, and it was announced yesterday that Usman's The Glassworker is Pakistan's official entry into the Oscars. So it is a very big deal, and I highly recommend seeing it here. We're very, very proud to be showing it on Sunday. So with that, thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please come and see some movies tonight. We have, what do we have tonight? We have, yes, we have 2 features preceded by wonderful shorts. We have the world premiere of Flight 182, directed by Ripon Sindar, and Privacy by Sudeep Kanwal. And then also we have the, next door we have Agent of Happiness, which is a beautiful documentary that we got out of Sundance from Bhutan, preceded by Somber Skies. So please do stay for programming, and we'll see you hopefully later on at Fashion and Film.
Yay!
Good.